Thanks for joining me again tonight. Tonight I have with me Leanna Jane Lewis, and she's an amazing woman. First of all, I'm just going to say that. She's an absolutely amazing woman because she's chased littles far longer than I could have had patience for. What she's done is she decided to ditch the paint, the Play-Doh center in her kindergarten classroom for some bigger, brighter adventures as a school teacher who turned yogi mentor and coach. And she's been doing this work and teaching for more than 10 years. And Leanna, thanks for joining me tonight. And I'd love to hear more about what you're doing now.
Cool. What am I doing now? Well, so I'm going to just backtrack for a little second to tell you how I got here. So basically the long and short of it is I had my second daughter and realized that it's time to shift. It's time to change. I was spending so much time away from my children and knowing when they're at such a young age, I want to be present with them. Mm-hmm. And what I loved teaching, and I did like working with children, but what I really loved doing was being present in my yoga classes. And I really loved the whole world of yoga because it's really what helped heal me in my journey for when I got sick back in my 20s. And I wanted to see what is that going to look like if I expand that out beyond the classes I teach in my town. What does it look like to expand that bigger and brighter, and to see what might that sound like? What kind of work would I be doing? So now, going through the last year of building the business, which has been the hardest and most exciting thing I've ever done. So essentially what I've landed on and what I'm working on now is really offering women who are struggling with a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And that sounds very general, but what ends up happening is that you seem to hear the same stories and you seem to hear very similar struggles. And the biggest thing is this struggle or this inability to sit and be with the self and be okay with the self. Mm-hmm. And so my work is around a lot of self-love and a lot of accepting and breaking those stories, those attachments that keep us less than our best. Mm-hmm. So I use a lot of the yoga philosophy to really guide that coaching. So really what it looks like now is I run an intensive. It's like 1 month of just let's blast you through some self-discovery and growth. It's really cool. And then the other ones are longer term programs. And the growth is, it's each time you meet with a client, it's just exponential growth. And you get this feedback and you go, how amazing is that? Yeah. So that's what I do now. A lot of one-on-one. And I do women's circles too, which is pretty spectacular.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
So when you're, when you were going through and learning all the yogic principles and really diving into that, because I'm not, an expert in that area, but talk to me about what does your intuition look like, either from a yogic viewpoint or how do you marry the two?
Sorry, my husband's behind me.
That's okay.
I'm just trying to drop this attachment that he can't be in the shot. So what does that look like? Well, really what that looks like for me is, as you know, in yoga, you're working with the very similar energy points. So you're working with the chakras. So when I hear intuition, I automatically go straight to the third eye. And I can recall very distinct moments, even teaching yoga or doing my meditations, where it's literally like this pulsing. So sometimes I use and tune in and feel it on a very physical level here in my third eye. Okay. And then I think other times, was the question, how does it show up?
Yeah. What does your intuition look like as you incorporate what you're already doing with, yoga?
So I think what it is dropping into the body is a big, big one, especially when we're talking in terms of yoga. And it's really been a huge part of my healing journey, is that we want to learn to speak our truth, and we want to learn to come from there and from that place. And in order to do that, it's like we really need to be in our bodies, and we really need to be out of our heads, because the head is the monkey mind, and it's that chatter. And that's the thing that's going to get you off track, as it were.
Right. So
it's really kind of going with that gut feeling. When something feels right or something feels wrong, there's a reason for it. But if you're in your body and you've got your mind closed, you can discern, or you can tune into in an easier, is it feel wrong because of a preconceived notion I have, or an old story or something? Mm-hmm. Or is it because it is the higher self speaking? Is the higher self coming through? So really, is it the ego, or is it the higher self? Right. So when you're able to kind of work with the third eye and really tap into that, and you use your intuition, like you're flexing that muscle often, you can discern which one it is quicker.
Yeah. I love that, because, you know, it's perfect you say that, because that's exactly how I support my own clients, is helping them to drop in and realizing, you know, what does it feel like? Where are they experiencing their yes? I like to say, mm-hmm. experiencing their yes in their body, mm-hmm. and being able to trust that, because mm-hmm. oftentimes we're like, oh no, that's, you know, I'm just having gas or something. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's the monkey mind. That's the monkey mind.
Your brain just goes off and creates some other story about what it thinks it is. Yeah. So yeah, I absolutely love that. And it really sounds like for you already have that confidence in knowing that you are very tapped into your intuition. And I think it's fabulous, because there's a lot of folks that just don't even believe that they can be intuitive.
No, and I think that's a question of or it's not a question, but it's more just, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So if things just haven't shown up on your holodeck, mm-hmm. because for one reason or the other, whether your eyes are open or closed, it's like you just don't know what you don't know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That makes sense. So mm-hmm. tell me I want to talk about how you have used your intuition in your business. And do you feel like in part or in whole that it's played a role in the decisions that you've made?
You know, I think I almost don't even see it as an intuition. I mean, it is for me. It is a very intuitive thing. Mm-hmm. But it's also really just ceasing to ask permission. It's kind of dropping that story that I need to, and especially when you're working with coaches or mentors, you know, you have this sort of niggly feeling that you have to ask permission. Do you think it's okay if I try this? Do you think it's okay if I do this? And so I think really tapping into your intuition is really just building that confidence and trust that you can co-create with the universe, and you don't need to have anything external or anybody else telling you yes or no. And this is why, and this is why not. So I think once you really have this opportunity to just show up as yourself and trust in that, and trust in your intuitive ability to just move through moments as they come and go as you, then you get to do the thing that feels good for you. And that might come across in the online entrepreneurial world as, and Jessie Howard, who does North Star messaging, she's amazing. And she says, you know, she put a post out today saying, you know, you want to be the disruptor. In other words, you want to disrupt this natural flow that people seem to do. It's like the same content, it's the same words. Disrupt that a little bit. And you get to disrupt that if you open up the space that says, it's okay to do this. I'm following my intuition. I'm following the thing that feels right and feels good. Maybe feels scary. Mm-hmm. That's the ego.
Yeah.
But if it feels right and if it feels good, then that's the thing that you get to do. And if it flops and fails, that's besides the point.
Right.
No child, I just said this, like no child, I've never seen a baby learn to sit up and then walk without ever falling.
Right. Yeah.
They're using this this ancient intuition, this ancient knowledge on how to do this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they're doing it. So why can't it be the same for you?
Right. So do you find that with your clients that one of the challenging aspects is supporting them and in remembering who it is they get to show up as?
Yes. 100%, 150%. Yes. And a lot of the work is about forgiving yourself for when you're not doing that.
Yeah.
Because what happens is there's this battle between the higher self, the ego, the body, the mind, and it's this battle that knows that things are not in alignment. Things are over here and we want to get here. And it's like we make steps to get here, and then we're like, oh, but I'm not there yet. Why am I not there? Everybody else is there. Something's wrong with me. Mm-hmm. And this self-defeating, self-sabotaging monkey mind chatter is a thing that keeps you here. Yeah. And if you can forgive yourself for being here, let that story go that it's not okay to be here, then you get to be here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it shows up a lot. It shows up a lot as forgiveness, because when you can get that other external stuff out of the way, mm-hmm. then you can start to trust.
Yeah.
How can you trust if you don't have a space of forgiveness for when you didn't follow your intuition?
Right. Oh, and then you start talking yourself out of the fact that you even think that you can forgive. You're like, yes. Oh, I screwed up so much before. I can't do it.
Now I can't do it. Yeah. Right. All is lost. All is lost.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I can't. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a coach say to me, and she's brilliant, and she said, it's not about taking yourself off the ledge. Because I said to her the other day, I'm like, I feel like I'm on this ledge sometimes. And it's like, it's not about that you're on a ledge. It's about who are you on that ledge? Who are you on that ledge? Mm. How do you step back? How do you step forward? Like, what is it? How do you hold yourself when you're there?
Right.
Yeah.
And how can you show up differently? I mean, it's not even making yourself change or making yourself be another way. It's just, what are you choosing to do? What do you choose to do next? And we get so wrapped around the axle in our heads about story. Stories. So do you have, or would you say that you have a memorable moment when you were using that gut feeling, where you're using that knowing, that full body knowing that stands out to you?
Yeah, definitely. For sure, when I was birthing my children.
Okay.
I mean, hands down, and I take that into my business in the sense that because I can anchor myself back to the moment, and I can go, remember when this happened? Remember when you did this? Remember when you did this in such and such a way? So if I feel as though I'm hovering or wavering, I can anchor back to that moment. Now, a lot of my work is getting clients to get in the present moment. Like, can we talk about the right now? Like right now. But in a way, it's good to be able to have those anchor points of things you've done so that you have evidence to go to. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say birthing my second child, it was an incredibly intuitive, all-knowing experience and a surrender, which all labor is. You need to surrender to the pain, to what it is. So I would say that's a big one for me.
So interesting. I'm going to mention this because you just realizing, speaking to you about this more.
Sorry, the husband's driving me. No, trying to get out of it. It's okay.
I'll just wave to him. I'll just say hi. And it's cool. And then he can be included and it's all good.
I think he's officially upstairs now.
It's all good.
Yeah.
It's just interesting that, when I do something very similar, but that I have them go back and, pick a particular time frame and jot down the things that you feel you did successfully or that you accomplished or, whatever word that is appropriate for them. but in that particular time frame, so they can have those moments when they're just feeling down in the dumps, like I'll never be able to fill in the blank.
Yes.
You know, then they can go, oh yeah, but you know what? I left my parents' house when I was 15 and I made it, and I got the job, and I got the house, and you know, and even now it's like reminding myself, like, hey, you know what's that saying? You know, you've come a long way, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just remember, like, you can continue to go a long way.
Yes.
But it's all inside of you still. It hasn't left.
Yeah.
It didn't sort of like disappear.
No, the light never goes off.
Right.
The thing is that life is the breath, right? It's an inhale and it's an exhale. And I think there's this fear that comes into us when we exhale and we're like, where do I get the next breath from? Right? Like, is there another breath that's coming? And it's this trust, right? It's this sort of surrender to the next breath comes. And if it doesn't come, then that's the end. And then there's nothing to be done.
Mm-hmm. And it's remembering that the breath comes from within, right?
Yeah.
So we think that, oh, the air comes in my body, but
no,
do the actual breathing, you know, for that to happen.
Yeah.
When you work with your clients and you're having that moment, I was going to ask you one question, but I'm actually going to change it. So
go for it.
I'm going to change it up.
Sweet.
Yeah. Are you finding a trend when you're working with your clients now where it's not only just a reacquaintance with being in the present moment, but this feeling of not knowing their physical body, like feeling like they don't even belong in their own skin?
That's a really, really good question. So a lot of my yoga students are they're able to do that because they have their yoga practice. Not all of them. Some of them just are only able to come certain times and they don't have a home practice, which is totally fine.
Right.
And so it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, that's a really good question. I want to say that they're able to drop into their body and be in their body because I'm a good coach.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
But at the same time, I know it does take different amounts of time on different days. Some days it's really easy. And then some days the mind is so active that it's a bit harder. Like even for me, I was getting an attunement for my Reiki level 1 that I did the other day. And the swell of my mind was it almost knocked me off the chair. And my teacher said, yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It hasn't happened for a long time. So, there was a difficulty in dropping into the body and staying in the body. Yeah. So I think being in the body is such a personal thing that it's very hard to discern whether somebody is or isn't.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you've experienced, where people have actually said, hey, I'm actually having a hard time staying in my body and being in that moment and experiencing it.
Yeah. Okay, I see. I'm going to say then the majority of almost everybody, otherwise they wouldn't be contacting me.
Okay.
Because really, truly, to move through the stuff that I help people move through, quieting the mind, slowing the thoughts, more space between thoughts, connecting with the breath, connecting in your body, like that's what it's all about. And if you aren't struggling as much with the anxiety and with the monkey mind, it's because you're able to quickly be in your body and stay there.
Amen. Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Leanna, for joining me this evening. I would love for folks to be able to find you. What's the easiest way that folks can get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the easiest way, well, they can always get in touch with me and join the newsletter, which I send out once every couple of weeks. So they could do that, which is just leannajaneyoga.com. leannajaneyoga.com. And then the other really fantastic way to stay in touch and we can find each other is in my Facebook group.
Okay.
So that is just Leanna Jane Yoga. And it's a Facebook group. You can look that up. I am on Instagram, but I am admittedly not fabulous at keeping up with it.
Okay.
I think it's Leanna Jane Lewis.
Okay.
Like that's how un-Insta I am.
Well, that's all right. You'll get to grow into that if you decide you want to do it, right?
If I decide. But yeah, for now it's Leanna Jane Yoga Facebook group. And you can find me on Facebook too, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you and your time as always.
Yes, you're very welcome. Thank you. Namaste.